Alrighty then, 3.4, using the quadratic formulas. Using the quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and that's discriminant. What a mess. What a game. Okay, 3.4, using the quadratic formula. For this formula, you did this in Algebra 1, but as a review, if you remember the song sung to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, that you should memorize. Memorize that right there. And this is used when the value of a, b, and c are real numbers and a cannot be 0. If a is 0, why do this way when you can do it a lot easier way? Okay, so the values of a, b, and c have to be real. Okay, so let's do some practice. Equation D as in David. 4x plus, you have to put it in standard form. That's in standard form. What's the value of a? Yep. The value of a is 0, b is 4, c is 8. Okay, and then what do we just say here? A cannot be 0. Hey, a is 0. Why bother with this when you can do it a lot faster and just, hey, subtract 8 on both sides, divide by 4, x equals negative 2. There you go. Why use the harder way when you can do it the smarter way? Okay. Equation E as in elephant, echo. Okay. Is this in standard form? Yes. The largest x to the squared. The exponent is the largest here. The next largest exponent is a 1. It's right here. And this is technically x to the 0. So largest down to the smallest exponent. Yes, it's in standard form. So the value of a is 1, b is 12, c is 36. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals negative b is 12 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. A is 1, c is 36 all over 2 times a. A is 1. So you just plugged it into the quadratic formula. All you got to do now is simplify. Okay? Just got to simplify. So 12 squared is negative 12 plus or minus. That's 144. 136, 72. That's 144. And that's a 2. This right here, 144 minus 144, that part's called the discriminant. That's 0. And that's the same thing as negative 12 over 2. Square root of 0 is 0. So 12 plus 0, 12 minus 0, you get this, which is negative 6. This is your answer. Negative 6. So x equals negative 6. You only get one answer there. Okay. When you do this, now doink, doink. When you do this, in this case you only have one real answer. When this part here, it is right here, the part inside the square root, the b squared minus 4ac, this part right here, that's called the discriminant. If this is equal to 0, you're only going to get one answer. It's going to be real. You're going to get one answer. If this discriminant, if all that stuff is equivalent to a negative number, then your answer is going to have the letter I in it. The letter I as an imaginary. Okay. If all of this stuff, discriminant, is a positive number, then you're going to have 2 answers. And you can have an answer like x is 5 or x is 12, or you can have x equals some really funky numbers, and then we'll see what they really look like, okay? And I'll show you what they are. This next one here, F, is this here, equation F. So is that in standard form? Largest exponent down to the smallest exponent, and then it equals 0. Nice, it's in standard form. A equals -1, B equals 2, C equals 12, X equals -b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative b is 2 plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. You just use the quadratic formula, or quadratic equation. Here's the quadratic equation again. Memorize it, memorize it, memorize it. The rest of this is just simplifying, 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 simplifying. Negative b, that's a 4. Negative times a negative times a positive is a positive. 4 times 1 is 4, that's 48. That's a -2. -2 plus or minus 52. 52. Ooh. So now we have to simplify this right here. Do the factor tree. 2 times 26. That's prime. That's not prime. 2 times 13. Prime, prime. So x equals -2 plus or minus 2 to 13. -2. -2. So we have here, inside the square root, we have identical pair. 1 squared, 2 times 2 is 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. Only one of those 2's go outside. So we have this, 2 square root 13's divided by -2's. Okay, divided by -2's. So now I'm going to take on the top. This has a 2, that is a 2, that is a 2. So I'm going to factor out on the top, I'm going to factor out a 2. So we have, I'm going to factor out a -2 because there's a -2 down there as well. So -2 times what gives me -2? +1. -2 times what gives me a plus or minus 2. Since it's plus or minus, it's just a plus or minus 1, and that stays as square root of 13. Why did I factor out the -2? Because that would cancel out the stuff down there. Just like when you have fractions, the stuff on top and the bottom, if they're the exact same thing, cancel. Say cancel. And now you have 1 plus or minus 1 times the square root of 13. I just wasted a half a second of my life. I don't need to put a 1 there. You can, but most people are just going to write it like this. Square root of 13 is prime, so that cannot be simplified. This could be simplified, so that's why I had to do the factor tree. This can no longer be simplified, so you actually have 2 answers right there. Okay, one answer is 1 plus the square root of 13. The other answer is 1 minus the square root of 13. So here are your 2 answers. It's just this is a faster way of writing those 2 answers. So books are going to write it this way. They save time, they save space, they save ink. Okay, so books are going to write it this way. Get used to this. In college, they do it this way. Even in high school, this is not done. It's just, you can, if you want to spend your time, I shouldn't say waste, but if you want to spend your time doing it this way, you can. But after a while, you're going to get used to doing it this way. Okay. The next one we have, okay, that one. Let's do this one. This next problem here x squared equals x minus 6. What's the value of x? Sorry, a is 1. We forgot to put in standard form. Forgot to put in standard form. Everything one side of the equation, 0 other side. Subtract x on both sides, add 6 on both sides. X squared minus x plus 6 equals 0. X squared minus x plus 6 equals 0. That's what we want. Now, since now it's in standard form, now A is 1, B is a negative 1, C is a positive 6. Okay. Now you could use the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus the minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That song is a great way to memorize this. I don't care how you memorize it, just memorize it. That little ditty that we just sang, or I did, it's a great way to memorize it. You did it hopefully in Algebra 1. If you need to memorize it whatever way you can. Okay? So this negative b plus or minus the square root of the negative b squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is 6 all to 6 over 2 times a is 1. Okay, I hope you don't go any further because I just made a mistake. This is a very, very common mistake. Negative b. Negative b. What's the value of b? There's a negative. B goes inside here. B is a negative 1. Please don't make that mistake. I want you to see me make this mistake so you don't. I tell you, this is a very common mistake. Don't make that boo-boos. Okay? So that's using the quadratic formula. We just have to simplify all that mess. Does this take up a lot of space? Yes, it takes up a lot of space. Of course it does. But when I'm doing it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps. If you start skipping a lot of steps, that's when you start, because you skip steps, you do it in your head, that's where you start making mistakes. Okay? Be careful. That's a 1 plus or minus. Negative 1 squared is a 1. Negative times a positive is a positive. 4 times 1 is 4 times 6 is 24. That's a positive 2. 1 plus or minus square root, that's 25. Or 2. Since this discriminant, this is the discriminant, all the stuff inside the square root, it's called the discriminant. Since it's positive, we're going to have 2 real answers. Okay, we're going to have 2 answers and they're real. It's imaginary when the stuff inside the square root, if that's a negative, then you're going to have the imaginary answers. Imaginary, and that's when you have the letter I. Aye, Captain. So, 1 plus or minus. 25 simplifies, if you memorize that, is 5. And this is the same thing as saying 1 plus, whoops, come on, that's an equal sign. Yuck. It's the same thing as saying 1 plus 5 over 2 or 1 minus 5 over 2. Okay. Okay. It's both of these. This right here, 1 plus or minus 5 over 2 means this one and this one. 1 plus 5 is 6 over 2, and that's a 3. 1 minus 5 is a negative 4 over 2, and that's a negative 2. Okay, so this one you're going to get 2 answers. You're going to get 2 different answers. Did I do something wrong here? X squared. Did I make the boo-boo? X squared minus x plus 6. Oh, I can't believe I made that mistake. I made the boo-boo right here. I made the boo-boo right here. This is a minus times a plus times a plus. It's a negative. That's a negative. Boo-boo. This is not correct. That's a mistake I did not plan. So it should be x equals 1 plus or minus 1 minus 24 over 2. X equals 1 plus or minus, that's a negative 23 over 2. Okay, and can we simplify that? No, this 23 is prime, so you can't simplify that. So what we can do, inside the square root, that negative, pull it outside. Any guesses why? Any guesses why? Aye, aye, Captain. Can we simplify that anymore? No, you can't. That's your answer. So that, from a boo right there, see how easy it is to make that mistake? That right there, I'm going through this again. No, look at this, nice and easy. I got two answers, a 3 and a negative 2. Just because you know how to do this stuff, it's just all this simple arithmetic stuff. So easy to make that mistake. Okay, good thing I caught that. I did not plan on making that mistake, by the way. Okay, so this is your answer. You get an imaginary answer. Because the discriminant, this stuff is negative, you're going to get an imaginary answer. So one answer is a 1 plus I times the square root of 23 all over 2. And the other answer is 1 minus I times the square root of 23 all over 2. Okay. Okay, and this will be last question. If you don't want to follow this, if you think you know how to do this, fantastic. But this is just more review. Okay. What's the value of A, B, and C? Oh, wait a minute. This is not in standard form. Put it in standard form first. Largest, here's the exponent, largest exponents first, then that, and then the constant, then equals 0. So we have to subtract 24 on both sides. Always put it in standard form. Everything starts with standard form. Once it's in standard form, then you can start doing a lot of stuff with things. But if you have to put it in standard form first. Same thing when you factor. Okay. So here, here's the variable. It's the largest exponent. Then you have the next smallest, and then you have this next smallest. So from w squared to w to the first, w to the 0. That's standard form. A equals 4, B equals negative 4, C equals negative 24, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared. I hope you caught that error. 4 times a is 4, c is negative 24, over 2 times a. Okay, did you find the error? Yeah, I hope you did, because there's more than one error. There's more than 2 errors. There's 3 errors there. I hope you found at least one of those errors. Okay, first one, negative b. Negative b is actually negative 4. That's the first error. Another error, make sure this goes all the way across, all that stuff, all over 2a. That's the next error. Here's another error that's a common. Right here, it's b squared minus 4ac. It's minus 4 times a times c. This looks like it's negative 4 times 4 minus 24, and that's not what we want. It's times a negative 24. Make sure you have parentheses there. Okay. Each one of those errors I see over and over and over. This one's a very common error. That one's a common error. This one all over 2a, sometimes it's made. Okay, be careful. Be careful of these errors. Good thing you followed this one instead of leaving early. Okay, that's a 4. Negative 4 squared is a positive 16. Negative times positive times negative is a positive. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 24. Be nice if I had a calculator. 4 and a 16. So let's see, 16 and 24. Since I don't have a calculator, 6 times 4, 24. 6 times 2 is 12. 4, 0, 24. 4, 8, 384. 384 over 8. Okay, 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, now we have x equal, did you see the error I just made? Make sure it's, see how it's all over 2a? That's not all over 2a. All of it, make sure I go all the way over. That's a common boo-boo, be careful. Be careful. 4 plus or minus. 16 plus 400. Okay, square root of 400, 20. Okay, it's 20. So x equals 4 plus or minus 20 over 8. So that's going to be 4. That could be simplified to 4 plus 20 over 8 and 4 minus 20 over 8. Excuse me. Whoops. This is 24 over 8, and it's 3. 4 minus 20, that's going to be negative 16 over 8, which is negative 2. So our answers would be x equals 3 or x equals negative 2. So you're going to get 2 answers. 2 answers because the discriminant is positive. So we're going to get 2 real answers. Okay. So far we know how to solve quadratic equations several ways. By graphing, square roots, factoring, we did that earlier in class, earlier in the chapter, completing the square, and quadratic formula. This one was the quadratic formula. Okay, there you go, guys. Good luck. Bye.